Trump commemorated Memorial Day by comparing his criminal defense attempts, his legal battles against what he called fascist pigs and lunatic thugs. He compared this miserable son of a bitch, compared that to the more than 1 million U.S. soldiers that have died on foreign battlefields. I mean, only this filthy pig Trump could do that. He took to social media, Truth Social, a little toy platform he has, to deliver this maniacal all caps rant yesterday morning. Here's what it said. Happy Memorial Day to all, which is kind of a dumb shit thing to say. It's inappropriate to mark a somber day of national remembrance by saying, Happy Memorial Day to all. And then he went on, but especially to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the country they love, and to those in line of a very different but equally dangerous fire, stopping the threats of the terrorists, misfits, and lunatic thugs who are working feverishly from within our country to overturn and destroy our once great country, which has never been in greater peril than it is now. We must stop the communist, Marxist, and fascist pigs at every turn and make America great again, end quote. Jesus bleeding Christ. This filthy pig Trump has absolutely, as been said many times, no bottom to his filthy reptilian brain. The shit he comes up with. Well, this morning, Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe ripped Trump a new body orifice. He said that Trump left his stain on Memorial Day. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, Scarborough this morning ranked that post I just shared with you among the Orange Vomit's worst holiday statements. And Scarborough said that Trump went out of his way to issue the most disrespectful message possible. This is what Mika Brzezinski said. Quote, President Biden's most likely 2024 opponent, Donald Trump, had a less reflective Memorial Day message. On his social media website, the former president compared himself to the country's fallen heroes, wishing a happy Memorial Day to, quote, those in line of a very different but equally dangerous fire, stopping the threats of terrorists, misfits, and lunatics, blah, blah, blah. Mika Brzezinski added, it's brutal, Joe. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I guess it's a step up from what he said in the past about our fallen heroes. End quote. Joe Scarborough then said that Trump had a well-documented history of insulting slain service members, questioning why they had sacrificed their lives for this country. You know what I'm talking about. This is what Scarborough said, quote, I mean, what he said in the past, you look at that Atlantic Magazine article in 2020, he basically called men and women who gave their all suckers. It's always been his attitude about it. He has contempt for those who would sacrifice for the country. This is, again, we're not surprised by what Donald Trump says, but I will say I'm surprised there's still such a large number of Americans, at least telling pollsters, that they still support this person. Whether it's Memorial Day, Mother's Day, the 4th of July, whatever it is, he tries to be as hateful and disrespectful as possible. And then Scarborough added this. Again, I'm not catastrophizing here. He just, as I was saying earlier, there are Republicans who are grown-ups. Most would never do something like this. Yet the person that runs the party right now is the most hateful, has been the most hateful, and even stains days like Memorial Day But we should stay focused on those men and women who gave their all in battle and across the world so we could be free, end quote, Joe Scarborough. Now, obviously, I would have a fundamental disagreement, not with Scarborough, but with the American mythology, and I guess it's a mythology in every country that sends young people to die. But that mythology that somehow we, especially in this country, we are defending democracy or we are doing something noble. I mean, how can we still believe that? We sent 56,000 American soldiers to their deaths in Vietnam. For what? No, seriously, for what? We were told by Eisenhower and Kennedy and Nixon and so many American policy setters that it was absolutely necessary to go to war in Vietnam because if we didn't, Vietnam would become communist. Well, duh. What is Vietnam now? Right, communist. And the big American and European corporations, especially the ones that work in retail clothing, they seem to be doing just fine with the fact that Vietnam is communist. I mean, there are all kinds of factories that have opened there for Western retailers. And American tourists go to Vietnam. I mean, that's just one example. I would imagine that some of my listeners get tired of hearing me point this shit out. But, I mean, what am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to think? Do you really believe that the wars that we have fought have all been about preserving democracy? If you go back to the first one, the Spanish-American War, horseshit. That wasn't about preserving democracy. And we can talk until hell freezes over about the greatest generation, so-called, who fought against fascism in Europe and against imperialism in the Pacific. And we have spent decades talking about those two so-called theaters of death and destruction. But I mean, and any time Donald Jesus Trump opens his mouth about any topic, he's corrupting it. He's spewing his venom on it. Man, oh man. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.